in terms of where the future of thought leadership, again, I think is going to be distinguished by people willing to get in the brain gym and the creative gym and not have it happen in 5 minutes. Because a lot of times it's a pain in the ass. We can't be transformational if we're not doing something in some way original, unique, real, authentic. And we don't just want to, oh, let's inspire. It's like, I love participant films when they were around in Los Angeles, because they were like, I don't want to make a documentary about the horrors of the food industry. And then people like drive through McDonald's on the way home, or whatever it is, right? Their point was, come to the documentary, be horrified or inspired or whatever it is. And then what are you going to do about it? And they would embed opportunities, whether it was signing a petition, writing to a congressperson, joining a group, being an activist in some way. And I think that's why we teach books that start movements. Movement, something's changing, right? And I think thought leaders have to become movement leaders.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Humanize Your Brand podcast.
No, new little high-pitched tone voice then.
That's my singing voice. Well, today we have my friend, and now Josh's friend too, Sara Connell, on the podcast.
Yay! Very excited. We're so excited that Prince had to go and join us right at the beginning to make sure that he made his debut.
We love the dogs to be with us for the interviews. It's so important.
Well, before we get into the conversation, I want our listeners,
the
watchers, to see what a badass Sara Connell is. She's a 5 times best-selling author. 5. A thought leader, strategist, and founder of the Thought Leader Academy, where she empowers coaches, writers, and entrepreneurs to become best-selling authors and in-demand speakers. Her work has been featured on Oprah, TEDx, the New York Times, Forbes, Good Morning America, The Today Show, Katie Couric. Oh, where is Katie? And NPR. She's the author of 5 books and has been nominated for a National Book Award and Elle Book of the Year. She's coached thousands of individuals to bring their stories to life, their missions and messages, which is something Josh and I really resonate with her work. Literally, her book saved her life, and Sara made a vow to help others change and even save lives through storytelling. Today, she helps leaders move from hidden potential to visible impact by owning their voice and answering the call to lead.
You know, and Sara, I want to take a second out because, like, when Rachel says badass, like, I remember it was funny. You know, the first time you and I met, I don't know if you were, it was in the elevator. And being able to go in and, you know, and you've got your sparkly suit on.
Oh my God, you remember? That's so
head to toe. Well, I mean, also, too, this is a woman that's wearing a sparkles.
Sequin jumpsuit in the middle of
black.
Bedazzled suit from head to toe. And she's like, oh my God, I love your hair. And I'm like, you're talking about my hair? I mean, like, let's take a second to be able to talk about the suit here. And we get out, we're walking, and like Rachel's like, you don't know this, but she's a badass. And I said, okay. I go, she seems like it.
That's hilarious. But actually, the perfect segue into Sara, because first of all, when you talk about visual identity and your personal brand and people's perceptions and how you show up, Sara always looks sharp. So right now, she has a bright red jacket on, looks like a kind of blazer. And she's always dressed to perfection. And I think it means a lot for what you're trying to put out there to the world. So tell us a little bit about this journey and writing 5 books. And you said one of them saved your life. So let's hear that story first.
Yeah. Well, and I'll laugh about the clothes, you know, kind of whatever. I think of some people have really fun hobbies like skiing or golf or whatever. And I like to play with, you know, it's part of my creativity is like, I'll play with clothing or, you know, accessories or whatever. I do it for friends, for clients, you know, it's just sort of a fun thing. And so it's just makes me laugh when, yes, I was the one wearing like the, you know, sparkle, you know, Catwoman suit at a business event, just because I felt like it. And I think I've always you guys teach brand, right? And authenticity is sort of, I think at the core of every great, you know, anyone that if we're going to express ourselves, it's like, what's actually authentic. I don't do it for the show or the what, you know, like any external thing. It's just a fun way. I love Frida Kahlo, the way that she just used herself as a canvas. And she's always been that inspiration. And I do it in my version. So that's a little PS. And it all came, of course, because our childhoods either, we go like we were raised or the opposite. My mother wanted all boys. We were not allowed to have long hair, have any dolls, have anything feminine, do any, I mean, it was just that was a no go. And so I feel like that is my, what do they call it? A reaction formation. So now as an adult, I play and it's like, oh, since I didn't do this when I was 12, I'll just do it now. So little random background has nothing to do with my story, but that's that. But I do think as being thought leaders, us being fully ourselves, if that's if we're into a certain thing, if we have hobbies and values, I think the more talking about humanizing that we're talking about today is that is how we're real, showing dimensionality and being who we really are. And so what happened, the book that saved my life was a book actually that I found in a bookstore. So I was working right out of college. I went to Northwestern and got recruited by this big Fortune 500 company. It was this, oh, yay. And I got in there in height of the Me Too era. Anyone that's walked a journey similar to that in whatever capacity, really toxic, really traumatic, really upsetting. And I was a single woman supporting myself and I felt trapped, even though that wasn't true. That was my mindset at the time. Like, I have to go here and do this because otherwise I can't buy food and have a home and, an apartment. And so I just, like most of us, in whether it was a relationship, a job, something that was just really toxic, I started to spiral and I got into a really serious eating disorder. My mental health spiraled, my physical health spiraled, and I felt like I was going to die if I stayed at that job. It sounds so dramatic. But if anyone's been in a relationship, right, where it can be a relationship that has that level of abuse, right? It was really scary. And I was in the Boston airport flying back from Boston. I had a meeting going back to Chicago where I lived. And I just had the dread, like, I don't want to get on this plane. And I found there was a bookstore and I'd always wanted to be a writer. That's what I wanted to do. I didn't let myself because my parents were like, hell no. Like, you want to scare your parents, forget drugs, alcohol, tell them you want to be a writer. You'll just, that'll terrify a
That's
parent.
like an artist too, right?
I mean,
Or
I can tell you when I wrote my first book, my mom was like, okay, this is cool. These are the things you're not allowed to put in there.
Right. It's like, do not do it. So, I'm in the Boston airport. They're calling my flight. I don't know if, I see this bookstore and I just was like, I just want comfort, something, escape. And I just randomly picked up a book. It was called Holy Hunger by Margaret Bullitt Jonas. I read the whole book that night in the flight, the taxi, all night. And it was just a woman sharing her story. She was sharing about her own trauma. She shared how she got out, how she got well from her own health, mental health and physical health crisis. And by the time I finished reading, I said, that's it. Even if I'm on the street, even if it doesn't work, I'm not going to do this anymore. And it gave me the courage, just that one woman sharing her story, which was different than mine, but similar in the sense that she'd walked through something and empowered herself to get well. It just gave me that one burst of just, I'm going to change my life. And I credit that book as saving my life, as I've said. And then once I got well and I thought, I don't know if anyone will ever read it, but I will spend the rest of my life paying that gift forward. I will write books. I will help other people. That after I was very blessed to have the first book do well and got on Oprah and all these wonderful things, I was like, this is what I'm going to do with my life. I'd become a coach already. I had these trainings. I'd been trained as a writer, but now it was like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure that the people that have, whether it's a story, a methodology, a movement, that they're in that airport bookstore on someone's darkest day. That's what I've done ever since.
That's awesome. I
we
mean,
can all relate to that story.
I mean, I wish I could say that my book was in that airport, but the only time it ever gets there is when I drop one off and run away real quick.
Totally. Do we do that? It's like I ran in the Concord Lounge at Heathrow coming back from London. I was like, I put my book there and took pictures of it. It was not there for any other reason than I just wanted it.
Yeah. So what was the first book? So tell us the rest of the story. So you left the job. What happened?
Yeah. So it certainly wasn't overnight. And I always want to be on, right? I didn't believe in myself. I had not let myself do any training as a writer because even going into college, I thought I wasn't allowed. I don't know if anyone else has had this, back to like the human journey. I thought that if you were going to be a writer, a teacher had to take you aside and tell you were special and give you secret books, because that's what happened in every movie I saw where a kid became a writer. That's what happened. So I thought, oh, that's the script. And when that didn't happen, unconsciously, I said, "Oh, I guess I'm not allowed to do that. I'm not good enough. It's not my destiny." And I had no idea that I was outsourcing, like, my power for someone to say if I was worthy of a dream. And I still have that tendency sometimes. I don't know if that comes up for you guys, but it's like, who am I to be a thought leader, right? Like, who am I to teach brain who I mean, that shit is real. And so anyway, I had some skills to develop, right? Actually, to start writing something, and I did start to allow myself to explore my creativity, to take some classes. I ended up doing a master's degree later, but the point was I started to just give the slightest bit of it energy to this dream. And, I had to work other jobs along the way, right? This isn't just oh, someone was like, oh my God, you wrote the next great, not hell no. But I eventually worked up to the point where someone who knew an agent, and she was willing to maybe possibly consider maybe representing. It was not the parade was not thrown. The New York Times was not phoned at this, discovery, but it was the next step, right? And I just kept taking those next steps and building upon them and learning, developing my craft. And the first book I wrote was a memoir. Now I've written a lot of more thought leader, nonfiction type books, and that just did get. We were so lucky to have media attention, and the story. It was a story of how we had our son, which is a whole nother podcast episode. A wild science fiction tale of eventually my mother being our surrogate, if you can imagine. You guys are both parents, so we had tremendous trauma and fertility issues, and my first pregnancy resulted in my twins being stillborn, so just, like, really, like, some rough things, and then we had this miracle happen, and, this is how my son, who's now 14, my mother is completely fine, healthy, like, she was here over the holidays, and so that was the first book, and that did garner, there were a lot of attention and media interviews and things, and so, I learned about the business and then realized, okay, I don't wanna be a generalist, I wanna really specialize in thought leadership and books because I know the power that they have.
So well said. And I mean, as you tell the journey, not that I mean, there's 2 journeys that you talked about from the corporate side and then also, from the, having a child. I mean, like, from the corporate side, I mean, I remember when I first met Rachel, she was taught to climb the corporate ladder, to be able to go through, to be able to do this. And I remember so many times, I mean, her just being broken down on the floor. And then I talked to her friends too that were MBAs, and they're all like, they hate their job. I'm like, "You went to school twice and you still hate your job? Like, what the hell?" Right? And, I think some of that, like you said, I mean, sometimes we need that permission. I know I needed permission in my life at one point. I mean, I think that hopefully I gave Rachel some of that permission of her own to take back her life and to be able to be the amazing. I already knew who she was. She was freaking amazing. I knew that I needed a I need a bit of that magic in my own life, not only just personally, but professionally. And so it was like me begging her to leave corporate and come play with me. But
If you call this play.
and now I'm like, hey, you're better at a lot of things than me. Like, you just run it and tell me what to do, right? It's easier. But at the same time, right? Like the other story, like you talk about, like this is relatability, this is commonality that so many people look for in the humanization of brand, because both your stories, Rachel and I, we went through being IVF, and it was a very tough battle. And again, another time that I saw Rachel really struggle in her life. So it's really interesting, as you kind of tell those stories. They immediately impact me, not directly, but indirectly through my wife.
And not enough people acknowledge, I think, the couple, which is why I love that you are a team and the way that you lead this movement and are, teaching and coaching and consulting people. Because one of the things in that first book, I really, we get letters and emails from people and they'd say, I love that you honor like your husband's journey in this. It's not only, look, it's a completely different thing when it's happening in your body, like, of course. And also, everyone is affected and impacted and has the feel, and so I think it's refreshing to get to talk to the 2 of you together about, right? It's a journey that you both, go on if you're someone, in our cases, couples that have walked through that experience, and it's hard.
And that real, that rawness, that just openness to be able to share something that, I mean, this is something that afterwards that Rachel went through. She was like, I have to speak up more. because there's not enough women there. We're taught to hide this stuff, and that your book showed that. I can't. I don't have to imagine. I see the impact of where you've been, what you've done by just being you, not trying to pretend to be something else, not trying to live this social media life. And as AI comes more into our world, I think that's going to be Rachel and I talk about this being a trust recession, and trust being the new currency. And I really believe that that raw, authentic self, that unfiltered being, is going to be that truth that really cuts through all this noise that is just so manufactured now. And I mean, we're taught, all these kids are taught this stuff, and like, to be different. To Sarah, you and I and Rachel, we all have friends, and I'll shut up after this. But like, it sucks because I have my friends, and they'll launch their book and like, look, I'm in Times Square. And I'm like, I know what you paid to be able to be featured in Times Square. And you just set a precedence like this is what you have to aspire to be, but you're not telling everyone, well, it costs this much to do that.
And I loved Alex Hormozy's launch in the sense of, those of you that, follow whatever you are into Alex or not, he transparently said, I spent $4 million on ads. I spent $4 million just on ads, not even on the team, not even on the launch materials. I spent $4 million. Mark Zuckerberg should be throwing me a parade on Facebook ads for this book. And that's why I had the launch that I did. And that's why I sold 2 million books. He paid for, and I don't see that as a negative, like, oh, you paid for it. He invested in himself. He believed in himself enough. So if someone wants to invest in themselves, I love putting my books up in the Times Square billboards. It's really actually a very fun experience. We do it with our authors a lot. And there is an investment, and people say, oh, did you pay for that? Hell yeah.
But that's the thing, like, if you did and you were able to, hell yeah, right? Like, but I that's what I wanna be able to see, is that honesty, that transparency that allows other people not to, as you said, like, well, I didn't follow the all the movies because I didn't have this person come in here, and this didn't teach me. And so if we set all this social media precedents that, oh, well, this is what it takes to get there, this is what success looks like, and we don't tell them that, well, that success, you do have to be, that it does cost this level of investment in yourself. And I love how you put it that way, because when you actually share it that way, it shows as a lever of opportunity.
Right. And also to demystify, we think again, we get in then to this really messed up thing where we think, oh, some people are special. They're more loved. No, they did things. They took action. You guys, like Rachel said, this is fun. Because some days it's not. And it's hard work. And some people think again, this influencer lifestyle or whatever BS. Now we're gonna have fake people, not even human. I mean, that's what's hilarious about this. People are like, oh, all the influencers will be AI. I'm not interested. I mean, that's why I am such a stand for your movement, because and we're not alone. Like, human connection and realness and authenticity and honesty and the real deal is now going to be the most important thing, because you can even get the fun, shiny entertainment, edutainment stuff just done by a computer now. So it is the realness, the sharing, the journey, the what makes us human. That is going to become more. I was watching some terrifying thing was came across my YouTube feed of, just it's going to be the next wave of technology where we just think it into the computer and it'll do it all for us. We're not even typing anymore. We're not even voice commanding. We're just literally telepathically communicating with it. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. They're like, well, it's going to take some time to mind meld with the machine. I was like, I don't know how much I want that.
And
And
this
yet,
is where humanity is lost, and the machines get smarter and the humans get dumber.
and they get dumber, right? We're circling the drain. And that's what I'm such a stand in the new work about. Before you go ask the AI to do, if it's a creative or a strategic task, like, go to your genius first. Like, go to your go to your imaginal right brain, because otherwise all that's going to exist is just derivative. That's all that's going to be there. So it's our responsibility to do what you guys are teaching us, and what I'm trying to do in the book, because we are otherwise going to we're going to get derivative really fast.
I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about that, because you have a giant group, you have these programs, and now I'd love for you to talk about those pieces, but also I have to assume that things have changed quite a bit in what you're doing from 10 years ago to 5 years ago to just last year moving into 2026. So, can you talk about how like, what is that journey kinda been like, and the people that you're working with, and what are you teaching them so that they actually have some intellectual property?
Totally. It's been the big I mean, like, we all feel it, right? Whatever industry, whatever niche we have, we're all feeling this, and, what that's what it was weird. I kinda knew what the next book was, but I didn't really even understand exactly like a lot of us, we start a business or creative project, and then it takes us on a ride, and, sort of the work works us, and, what I didn't understand is how quickly it was going to get derivative, right? But whereas before we were just focused on, exclusively focused on helping people write the books, develop their speaking, TEDx, whatever, their platform, which we of course still do. But now, like this whole new piece of the work is giving people a space and really accountability to go first to their own creative, their own human genius, to go to their imaginal right brain thinking. Steve Jobs, his whole think different. That's really important, like really, really, really important, right? But we got to give. It is going to for convenience and safety and just human laziness. It is going to be much easier to go. Oh, just tell the GPT to do it. But
Because that's what they're all told. What you're saying is contrarian thinking because it's opposite of what every other quote unquote person is out there talking about, and it's getting exhausting because I think they're using AI to be able to recycle the exact same message because they all
It's
sound the
the
same now.
AI is now telling the ad campaigns you talk about a trust recession, right, which we are in, and that's real, and that's not going away in 2026. Hopefully, we'll turn a corner, but it's gonna take people who are going to be real and human. And so, Rachel, what we did last year, we deconstructed our programs. This isn't just AI, this is just our attention span is 2.9 seconds. That's the stat. And so we deconstructed our whole way that we work. We used to have a year-long, like, Thought Leader Academy, where people come in, like, do a book and do speak. People can't even focus. I mean, smart, awesome people are getting so overwhelmed so quickly and so beaten down by, like, the state of the world and what's going on in the world. So we kinda like a chef deconstructing a dish, we now just have, like, we're just gonna focus on the book for 90 days. And then we have, like, we're just gonna focus on if it's TEDx next or keynotes or podcasts or whatever. And we've deconstructed the way we deliver. It's the same work, but we really keep it where there's guardrails up for people to make sure they get to complete things, right? And then the Gamma group, which is a little bit of a joke name on the beta test, right? Gamma is it's the super conscious brain state. So that's like our longtime meditators, geniuses. We're training our brain and actually giving people like, here's the quick, easy ways that you can make sure you're getting your downloads. That's like my little fun way of saying it. Instead of downloading from the computer, let's go on a walk and download in that Einsteinian white space, like what the answer is, because we do know the answer. We have access to source, we have access to creativity, we have access to genius, and it's a use it or lose it scenario, right? We are in a use it or lose it. So I'm obsessed with having containers that are fun, easy, really like our Gamma group's like $47 a month. It's not like there's no barrier, you typically with cost, whatever. So it's like, oh, we're gonna come in here and really work on these brain activations and this creativity lab so that we make sure that that's a fun thing that's consistent. Like we go there first. Then, yes, the AI, look, I love that I can exercise and get my email campaign written, but I'm still writing it. Like the AI can just transcribe a lot better than Otter could, and I can say I love doing things like go out and find me what I name 5 other people in my field and say, what am I not doing that is a master move that they would do in this email sequence? That's a wonderful way. Wonderful to hear that. That's research. But, like, the core and that's why those of you guys teach us, storytelling and honesty and contrarian ideas are it's gonna separate everyone really fast.
Yeah.
Love that. It makes me it's funny. I was just with the AI the other day, and there's a lot of different aspects that, I get caught in my gaming with AI because of what we're building with Humanize, right? It's like I've been in the online marketing space for 20 plus years, right? MySpace being one of my first clients. And, and I always figured out there's an algorithm, there's a way to beat it. And so, like, that's what's been really fun for me is I'm playing this a high level game of chess with the AI on how to be able to beat it and how to beat if I can beat it, can it beat me and going back and forth. And that's been exciting for me because I haven't had that level of fun, in the marketing aspect in a while. And I mean, even though, and it's when we, okay, so remember when AI first came out, they're like, okay, this prompt, I want you to write me a headline like Alex Hermosi going through, and those were great. And the other day I was going through and I was like, sometimes we can't see the label from inside the jar. And I said, what is mine? Like one day I want someone to be I want write me a story or write me a script like Joshua B. Lee. Why can't we do that? Right. And I think people are continue to want to be someone else they're not. And it's the same thing like if you take Tony Robbins, right? You're like, I want Tony Robbins' morning program. Well, it's always Tony's. Right? And it's never gonna be yours, you're never gonna own that, and I think this having that shift and helping AI think in the, "How do I stand out? How do I be different?" That's where we start owning our story, and I think, Richard, you've said this, and I'll take it. I'm gonna let her say it because she's like, "I came up with that." What do we say about thought leaders? It's not thought leaders.
Oh, here's with influence.
So we
And to give credit, Sasha Strauss, who's an amazing professor at UCLA and has fingerprint, he actually was the person.
So it was like, I don't want to be an influencer because, influencers are half naked just selling me some sunglasses they were given for free.
Except if they're B2B influencers.
Well, even they might still be half naked these days. Who knows?
B2B influencers.
And then thought leaders, and not just say anything about because I know that thought leaders, but like this is just I want you to take this in. Don't take offense. But it was like thought leaders give you a lot to think about. But I want to be a thought leader with influence because I want to be able to make sure that I'm not only giving you something to think about and ponder, I want you to actually take action. And so that's kind of where we've had that shift is like, how do we actually,
Well, how do you do that,
Yeah.
Sarah? Like, that's what
that's where I'm getting. This Rachel's like, can we get to the point?
Right. No, it's such an important question, right? Because thought leader, like influencer even feels, I think, the most like ugh, to a lot of us, because it feels like ego and whatever. And then thought leader can feel grandiose. And so I really think of it as first, it starts with leading our own thoughts, which is back to this idea of what am I inputting? Where am I? What am I developing? Am I willing to do the messy, deep work that it takes to bring forth unique intellectual property, something in a unique angle that the world hasn't seen that's going to better humanity and what's, like this is the, again, this is like really my entire focus this year. And so, and hopefully beyond, right? And so, so I think thought leadership starts with our own thoughts and where we are leading our own thoughts. And then it's leading a movement. So when I teach books, I tell people right away, if you just want to write a book like a bucket list, or you want AI to write a crappy book in an hour, or again, I'm not anti-AI. It sounds like I am in this conversation, but I'm not. It's just in its right place. But I tell people that I'm not interested in helping people write inspirational or informational books. Those are great. It's just what I want is transformational thought leadership. And that's what I hear you both saying. You've got to have influence to be able to move someone. And I think that comes, first of all, from being willing to do real thinking. Not regurgitated, derivative, like real thought leadership, your own framework, your own unique lens, your own twist, that's the heartbeat. That's what we're missing in some of this generated stuff. It doesn't have a heartbeat. It has no soul. And that's what humans, we have souls, we have heartbeats. And so I think that's really important. And then in terms of, where the future of thought leadership, again, I think is going to be distinguished by people willing to get in the brain gym and the creative gym and not have it happen in 5 minutes. Because a lot of times it's a pain in the ass. It might take me, I got in this new book that's coming out later in October. I mean, I hit a couple walls that literally 6 weeks for me to really figure out what did I need. It's going to end up being a page in this freaking book, but it was worth it. And I wouldn't trade it for anything because where it took me as what I can bring forth, how I can be, we can't be transformational if we're not doing something in some way original, unique, real, authentic. And we don't just want to, let's inspire. It's like, I love participant films when they were around in Los Angeles because they were, I don't want to make a documentary about the horrors of the food industry. And then people like drive through McDonald's on the way home or whatever it is, right? Their point was come to the documentary, be horrified or inspired or whatever it is. And then what are you going to do about it? What are we gonna do about it? And they would embed opportunities, whether it was signing a petition, writing to a congressperson, joining a group, being an activist in some way, and I think of, that's why we teach books that start movements. Movement, something's changing, right? And I think thought leaders have to become movement leaders.
So, how do you know if you're ready and have a movement or you have original thought? Because a lot of people do not have that. Not that they're not capable of it, to the point, but they're not in that creative mindset. They're doing so. So how do you know? And how do you, with the people that you work with, how do you know that they're the right people for you, where you actually can create something transformational? Because that is not something everybody can do.
Yeah, and I think that, again, are people willing, right? Are we willing, all of us as leaders, to go? It's a lot of developing in ourselves, right? Because we could go the flip. There's the, "Oh, I'm phoning it in, doing the derivative," but then we can also feel so unworthy, like, "Oh, I could never have an original thought. Everything's been done." So, Rachel, such an important question. Like, where do we hone in to get someone, because there's nothing ultimately original in terms of probably a whole new topic, right? There's lots of people that have already created cool stuff on most things that humans will encounter. However, what I like to think about is how I test if something's original. First, I can do the basic, like, have I heard this somewhere else? Exactly this way. Most things have been said, and in fact, good things have been said already. But do I have a unique spin on it? Do I have, and that can be answered with an AI search or with a Google search or something. It's like, has someone done it exactly in this method? I mean, a book about downloading your clarity, genius ideas, your unique that's lots of people talk about intuition, they talk about creativity. I mean, there's a million things. But I have, a download methodology now. I have an equation, a scientific equation of genius and miracles that I met with a lot of scientists and developed through my own process using it, right? Downloaded it. So I think part of it is just, have I seen it said this way and like this before? And sticking with it until we hit something that's like, no, I don't think someone's totally come at it from this angle. Or we can certainly ask people, but the danger is, do not ask your best friends. And like your mom, if you're close with your mom, because this is what I hear all the time. People come to me and they're like, "Oh, my mom read my book," or my, friends, my five. It's like, I love you, but that is not a litmus test. They're going to love anything you write. They're not going to have any objectivity. Like you want
You
to.
haven't met my mom then, have you?
I was just
Of course,
thinking,
of course,
like,
my family would be the opposite. They'd be like, "No, you suck," and I mean, I'm just kind of not
I'm
all of
like, I'm
them,
gonna
but
be honest, like, when I wrote my second version of, Balances, and I
which
did
I
a
love, by the way.
updated, the new version, and I said to my mom, she's like, "Yeah,
Right, right. So it can go, it depends how we were raised, as they say. So I wouldn't have gotten the love from my family, but if I sent it to 5 best friends, they'd all be like, "Oh my god, it's amazing." So part of it is just, have you seen it said in this way, like this? And then also asking yourself, is someone going to be different? What are they going to be, how are they going to be differently, or what will they do differently from receiving this information, whether that's a book or talk, a video? I think that's an important question, because again, if we're edutaining and someone learns something or gets entertained, that's wonderful. Look, I love comedy. I that's what I do to, if I need to just change my state, watch a few minutes of like a stand up, the person that I like, or something silly. Like, I like to laugh. It's a fun energy shift. So there's no judgment there. But if I'm talking about, Rachel, to your point, like, how do we make sure we're bringing something transformational into the world? It's like, is someone going to be different and do differently after consuming this piece of content? And I think if we can get a hunch that certain people will, then we're on the right track.
I love that you talk about this, because this is something that Rachel and I always speak to as well, because and I think this is why, like, not only I believe the topic was so polarizing and exciting for your first book going out there, but if it does not evoke an emotion in you, how can you expect it to evoke an emotion in anybody else? Because as human beings, we make decisions emotionally based on some degree of love or hate. And like, people put content that's indifferent. They're like, "Oh, this is gonna get it." And like, Did it make you cry when you were writing it? Did it make you laugh? Did it get you excited? Did you get butterflies? Like, if it doesn't do any of that, how can you expect anyone else to actually have that same feeling?
Yes. I love the urge. And even way before we were in this moment in history, I don't know if you all ever worked with copywriters, but like I had always written my own stuff. And then for 6 months, I did that thing. They always tell you, you get to this level in business and you've got to outsource, like this, and you delegate who, not how, and all this. And frankly, I don't love writing a lot of marketing copy. It's not my favorite. I'd rather write book writing and stuff. So I had this person help me, and to be fair, there are phenomenal copywriters that do understand the brand and the person's voice. I did not have that, right? So I worked with this person who was perfectly lovely, and there was this deadness. There was like this deadness between me. I love my email list, okay? Like I have built that. I pour love of even beyond social media platforms, like those of you that are on I love you. And every message I write now is a love letter to that list in some way. Some people, I don't care if they don't open it, they don't care, but that is the vibration that I'm coming from. So I had 6 months and there was this kind of dead. I loved not having to think about it, but it also, no shock, was not converting. It wasn't engaging. I mean, because where's, again, heartbeat, soul. It was someone who went to copywriting school and like, this is a high converting copywriting email. Same if you go to AI and say, write me a high converting copywriting like Dan Martell, or it's not you. And so I thankfully I decided, look, I don't feel like spending all, because I spend a lot of time doing that work, but every single one has a soul. It has a heartbeat, whether it's well written, whether there's definitely punctuation errors in them, and they're not perfect, but they're real. They're all written by me. They have a soul in them. They have a love desire to help someone shift a thought or do something differently or whatever it might be. And there's story in them. And the people who I will open their emails, I know that they write them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I love that.
And I think a big point that you're making here, you said it's the heart, you're saying the heartbeat, right? The you. And the end of the day, especially with social media and the world we are in, which is a book at this point, books are a piece of what the larger movement is. A book gets you out there, but it's not necessarily going to make you money for many people, right? It's not necessarily bringing, it's more of a cost center, to the point of Alex Hormozy. I have to imagine the book sales didn't totally pay off the 4 million plus that, right? It's,
I don't know. I mean, I looked at those sales. I mean, like,
He did say this one did. However, Rachel, to the point,
but most of the time,
yeah,
right? It's not something that you make money off from the book, but it's all of the other things that you attach to. And the world that we're in is the world of personal branding. It's the world where the actual IP is the unique thought that you, Sarah, have, which is different than Josh, which is different from Rachel. Because many would say, oh, well, you're in the same kind of world category, thought leader, whatever, but we come from such different angles at it that we can all actually have a place in that. And I feel like that took reps, It took schooling for me. It took real experience and a perspective that I formed in my 30s to feel like I will write a book, and will feel comfortable writing that book because it's coming from like, okay, I have the reps, I have the cred that I believe that I could share something that is transformational. And I think that's just like a big point that I'm hearing you say. And I hope for whoever listens to this, you got to do the work. Like you don't get to just make a book unless you know what you're talking.
Here's the contrary thinking. I'm not trying to interrupt you, but like you and I have talked about this many times, and I know I'm gonna dig myself a hole, and I do this often.
Okay, dig it.
But men don't think that way.
Okay, what? Okay, I like this train.
Men don't they don't think that they have to put in the reps. Like,
you don't? Wow.
No,
there's actually scientific data on this, Josh.
Yeah.
You guys, if you've read the Confidence Gap article from the Atlantic Monthly a number of years, like there's a scientific study where women will underestimate their skill, capability, worth by about 25% from reality, whatever, that is. And
Yeah, and
and
we give
men
ourselves an extra couple inches.
men will it goes over by about 35%, and it's hysterical because and there's good and bads about both because it holds women back to be in the confidence gap, and it actually, it helps men advance because confidence will lead to that sense of ambition, and we'll go for things and price whatever it is. But
That's also
really,
why our world is a little messed up as
right.
well.
We get to come back into, both of us can learn from each other, right? It's better we can take from that divine masculine, like example of let's believe in ourselves a little more, give ourselves some credit. And the men I watch my son come out of a test. He's like, I killed it. My husband's like, I bet you never said that once. You never probably came out of a test, even that you got A plus on and said you killed. I was like, no, I don't think I ever did. I'm like, oh God, I don't know. Right. Versus like, he'll come out and be like, yes. And it's hysterical. Right. And there's beauty in both. In like, if we both come together in the middle, we'll really be on fire. Right. And that's what I think we're all working toward, what you're working toward. And I think that's so interesting, Josh. You point out, it's like, oh, I don't like men don't think they have to earn it to be able to be like have something of significance to say or to be able to give something transformational. It's
I mean, I don't
fascinating.
know if we should generalize about all men, but you, Joshua B. Lee, like
I have put in my reps. I've done everything, but I mean, at the
you
same
wrote a
point,
book out how old? You were like 32 or something when you wrote that?
yeah, but I mean, it wasn't a book that I wrote for anyone other than me. I wanted to be able to tell my story, and because I had not, I was in a point where I contemplated if I should be on this planet or not, and I needed to be able to share all the things that I was told I wasn't supposed to tell anybody, and I was like, man, even if one person reads this book and they go, oh my god, I'm not alone, that was cool for me.
Well, they're just validating everything Sarah said and I have vouched for. Because you
Well,
that's
that's
not
all
like
as men we do. We just validate our women, our queens,
but you
and
had
we
something
win.
you had something to say, you had reps, you had credibility, and the more than anything, you had a unique story given what you were experiencing. So I think we're
Yeah, but with AI now, I mean, like everyone, like this is why we have so much garbage. I mean, there's more noise out there than ever before because I mean, look, there's a lot. I mean, like I know a lot of guys like, dude, I published 50 books last week.
And again, this is where I really am gonna keep being an annoying contrarian all year because I think that's just again, it has no soul, it's garbage, right? People that said, "Oh, I'm churning out 50." Who's reading these? Like, this is what makes me I find it so fascinating. Who's resonating with these 50 books that came out in a week that were made by a human? Like, it's just not again, if you just need information, like someone just how do I unclog my toilet and someone did an ebook on the steps of that? Like, okay, sure, I don't need someone's story about plumbing necessarily or whatever, but not for what we're talking about, right? Like, and creating transformation for people. And so, frankly, I'm glad that people are, I say, phone it in. Anyone that doesn't want to take this ride, go for it because the cream will rise to the top.
well, Sarah, thank you so much for your time. We have a couple rapid fire fun questions for you. Here it goes. A thought leader isn't someone who knows everything. It's someone who
Yes. So, like we said, someone who leads their own thoughts and is willing to do the work to bring in original and powerful creative thinking.
so good. What's one belief about writing, publishing, or speaking you'd want to permanently retire?
Yeah, that you can just launch a book and then your life's gonna change, right? We've talked about this. Like, it's actually what happens after the launch where all the magic happens, which is how you leverage that book. The book should be opening the 7 doors of opportunity that we talk about: speaking engagements, partnerships, impacting lives, sales, attracting clients for the rest of your career.
Love that.
Love that. What do people misunderstand most about confidence when it comes to storytelling?
Yeah, it's kind of like the idea that ready isn't it isn't a feeling, it's a decision. And I think that confidence is something we gain by taking action when we're scared as shit, if it's okay to swear.
That's
I
it.
love that.
No, Rachel swears all the time, so
It's a sign of genius, by the way. People that swear are supposedly geniuses. So, well, I'm
that's
gonna
it.
take
Oh, did you hear that?
I mean, it's the same thing. Like, oh, if you get pooped on by a bird, it's a sign of luck. I mean,
mostly a sign of luck,
That's what
right?
my
We
grandmother
just
said.
try to make ourselves all feel better and justify our actions, right?
that's it.
Yeah.
You got one more?
If s- I guess it's more of a closing. Like if someone knows their story matters and they're afraid to be seen and get out there, what's like your one piece of advice right now?
Yeah, I think about the books. Obviously, I have a book that saved my life, but I have many books that have impacted me deeply, many talks, many speeches. So I think about, what if that person had listened to their fears and their inner critic, and never, if Maya Angelou had never written her books, if Martin Luther King never gave that speech, so I think about that, it's my turn. If I've been given that gift, I get to pay that gift forward now.
And any like one or two books that you must read if you're in that thinking?
Oh, yeah, like, if you need to get out of that mindset, or I mean, I think for fun, if you're into, like, a little bit of humor with your personal growth, I think Jen Sincero's books, like You Are a Badass, is always a nice
Love that book.
refreshing, right? It's a fun shot in the arm of just, you'll laugh and you'll laugh at yourself, but you'll also feel more badass and you'll go, do cool stuff. And then, I mean, God, there's just, it's so hard for me to, pinpoint in, but I think that in terms of just, again, like, empowering yourself, like activating I think read a biography or a memoir of someone you admire, because what you're going to find is that they went through all the same fears, doubts, insecurities. Like, it'll remind you that it's not a sign that you're not qualified. There's that line that, again, this is like, I'm going to say the word God, but substitute whatever you want, like that: God doesn't call the qualified, God qualifies the called. And I just freaking love that. Like, it's the universe, we could say, right? So it's like the universe, life doesn't pick the special perfect people. It's Life calls us to something that's deep in, and then we are qualified. We become it by taking the journey to say, so it's a say yes.
Yes.
Beautifully said. I mean,
Yeah.
I really loved our conversation. It goes a little deeper than how we initially started our meetup, by a sparkly suit and really tall hair.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to continue this and to continue being linking arms in our movements. And it's an honor to be on the journey with you both.
Thank
Thank you,
Sarah.
Sarah. All right, everybody. We'll see you on the next podcast. Read the show notes to check all of her information out. We'll have them in there. So thanks again. Have a great rest of your week.
Bye, everyone.
If today's episode sparked something in you, you don't have to keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who's building something with heart. And hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next.
If you're ready to humanize your brand now and show up with soul, grab our free guide, 3 Hidden Signals, at standoutauthority.com/3, the number 3, hidden signals. We'll see you soon.